You can operate the West Asian border from Bagram. You can actually also operate the South Asian border. So Bagram is very, very important. On this issue, I am joined by Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni and Major General Sanjay Meston. Let me straight away go to Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Sir, obviously Taliban is not going to give Bagram. But why do they want Bagram when they quit from Bagram, when they ran away from Bagram?
Karthikeyan, thank you very much. First and foremost, the Bagram Air Base, even when the Doha talks were on, there's nothing on the American mind, even at that point of time, to take back this air base. If it had been, the Americans probably would not have vacated, because the vacation of the Bagram Air Base was in July. And well, we know 15th of August, Taliban took over. But notwithstanding that, obviously the Americans probably now seem to feel that they now need to keep an eye on China, they need to keep an eye on Iran, they need to keep an eye on Russia. So if that be so, with that in mind, but then the question is, how do they get to Bagram? Because if the Taliban does not see eye to eye with
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Sorry. You know, I'm really sorry that, I really need to break into a big breaking news that is coming from America. I invited both of you for my discussion, but Donald Trump has started to speak at UNGA, sir.
Asia and many, many others. Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential. But it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit, Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. We saved millions and millions of lives with the 7 wars. And we have others that we're working on, and you know that. Many years ago, a very successful real estate developer in New York, known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them. You walk on terrazzo. Do you notice that? As far as I'm concerned, frankly, looking at the building and getting stuck on the escalator, they still haven't finished the job. They still haven't finished. That was years ago. The project was so corrupt that Congress actually asked me to testify before them on the tremendous waste of money, because it turned out that they had no idea what it was, but they knew it was anywhere between $2 and $4 billion as opposed to $500 million with a guarantee. But they had no idea, and I said it cost much more than $5 billion. Unfortunately, many things in the United Nations are happening just like that, but on an even much bigger scale, much, much bigger. Very sad to see. Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role, I've come here today to offer the hand of American leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in a safer, more prosperous world. And it's a world that we'll be much happier with. A dramatically better future is within our reach. But to get there, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats in history. There is no more serious danger to our planet today than the most powerful and destructive weapons ever devised by man, of which the United States, as you know, has many. Just as I did in my first term, I've made containing these threats a top priority, starting with the nation of Iran. My position is very simple. The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why, shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests throughout the region, and some great countries that are right nearby. Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead. And 3 months ago, in Operation Midnight Hammer, 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally obliterating everything. No other country on earth could have done what we did. No other country has the equipment to do what we did. We have the greatest weapons on earth. We hate to use them. But we did something that for 22 years people wanted to do. With Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity demolished, I immediately brokered an end to the 12-day war, as it's called, between Israel and Iran, with both sides agreeing to fight no longer. As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now. Thank you. Thank you. As we have got to come together, and we will come together, going to get it done. We have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to stop it. We have to get it done. We have to negotiate, immediately have to negotiate peace. We got to get the hostages back. We want all 20 back. We don't want 2 and 4. As you know, I got, along with Steve Witkoff and others that helped us, Marco Rubio, we got most of them back. We were involved in all of them. But I always said the last 20 are going to be the hardest, and that's exactly what happened. We have to get them back now. We don't want to get back 2, and then another 2, and then 1, and then 3. Have this process. No, we want them all back, and we want the actually 38 dead bodies back too. Those parents came to me, and they want them back, and they want them back very quickly and very badly, as though they were alive. They want them. They want them every bit as much as if their son or daughter were alive. I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But, you know, in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. It was supposed to be just a quick little skirmish. It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week, and they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people, and some in cities, much smaller numbers, where rockets are shot, where drones are dropped. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Look what happened to the United States, and look where we are right now in just a short period of time. The only question now is how many more lives will be needlessly lost on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to this. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth. As we seek to reduce the threat of dangerous weapons today, I'm also calling on every nation to join us in ending the development of biological weapons once and for all. And biological is terrible, and nuclear is even beyond, and we include nuclear in that. We want to have a cessation of the development of nuclear weapons. We know, and I get to view it all the time. Sir, would you like to see? And I look at weapons that are so powerful that we just can't ever use them. If we ever use them, the world literally might come to an end. There would be no United Nations to be talking about. There would be no nothing. Just a few years ago, reckless experiments overseas gave us a devastating global pandemic. Yet despite that worldwide catastrophe, many countries are continuing extremely risky research into bioweapons and man-made pathogens. This is unbelievably dangerous. To prevent potential disasters, I'm announcing today that my administration will lead an international effort to enforce biological weapons convention, which is going to be meeting with the top leaders of the world by pioneering an AI verification system that everyone can trust. Hopefully the UN can play a constructive role, and it will also be one of the early projects under AI. Let's see how good it is, because a lot of people are saying it could be one of the great things ever, but it also can be dangerous, but it can be put to tremendous use and tremendous good, and this would be an example of that. Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the #1 political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net. We have reasserted that America belongs to the American people, and I encourage all countries to take their own stand in defense of their citizens as well. You have to do that because I see it. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I can call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed, so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained. What makes the world so beautiful is that each country is unique. But to stay this way, every sovereign nation must have the right to control their own borders. You have the right to control your borders, as we do now, and to limit the sheer numbers of migrants entering their countries and paid for by the people of that nation that were there and that built that particular nation at the time. They put their blood, sweat, tears, money into that country, and now they're being ruined. Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before, with different customs, religions, with different everything. Where migrants have violated laws, lodged false asylum claims, or claimed refugee status for illegitimate reasons, they should, in many cases, be immediately sent home. And while we will always have a big heart for places and people that are struggling and truly compassionate, answers will be given. We have to solve the problem, and we have to solve it in their countries, not create new problems in our countries. And we are very helpful to a lot of countries that are just not able to send their people anymore. They used to send them to us in caravans of 25,000, 30,000 people each. These massive caravans of people pouring into our country, totally unchecked and unvetted. But not anymore. According to the Council of Europe, in 2024, almost 50% of inmates in German prisons were foreign nationals or migrants. In Austria, the number was 53% of the people in prisons were from places that weren't from where they are now. In Greece, the number was 54%, and in Switzerland, beautiful Switzerland, 72% of the people in prisons are from outside of Switzerland. When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime, it's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. Once we started detaining and deporting everyone who crossed the border and removing illegal aliens from the United States, they simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. We're getting a lot of credit, but they're not coming anymore. This was a humanitarian act for all involved, because on the trips up, thousands of people a week were dying. Women were being raped. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Raped, horribly beaten, raped. On the trip up, the journey up, it was a long walk. It was a long, arduous journey, indeed. And it was also a historic victory against human trafficking throughout the region. What we did was a victory, and we saved so many lives of people that wouldn't make the journey. That journey was loaded up with death. Loaded up with death. Dead bodies all along the roads of jungles to get up. They go through jungles, they go through areas so hot you couldn't breathe. They were dying of suffocation, areas so hot that you couldn't breathe. Dead bodies all over. By them not coming, we're saving tremendous numbers of lives. My people have done a fantastic job in doing what they did, and the American public agrees with it. I mean, I was very proud to see this morning I have the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Part of it is because of what we've done on the border. I guess the other part is what we've done on the economy. Joe Biden's policies empowered murderous gangs, human smugglers, child traffickers, drug cartels, and prisoners from all over the world. The previous administration also lost nearly 300,000 children. Think of that. They lost more than 300,000 children, little children, who were trafficked into the United States on the Biden watch, many of whom have been raped, exploited, and abused, and sold. Sold. Nobody talks about that. The fake news doesn't write about it. With many others, young children who are missing or dead. And we found a lot of these children, and we're sending them back, and we've been sending them back to their parents. They said, nobody knows who they are. They said, where do you come from? And they'll give us a country, and we'll find out, and we'll figure it out, and we'll bring them back to their homes. And the mother and father rush to the door, and their tears in their eyes. They can't believe that they're seeing their son or daughter, their little son or daughter again. We've done almost 30,000 of them so far. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about. In America, those days, as you know, are over. The Trump administration is working, and we are continuing to work to track down the villains that are causing this problem, and also, as I said, to get back the 30,000 we've already returned. Now I think we're going to have another. We're going to find a lot. You're not going to find all of them. 300, more than 300,000. They're lost or they're dead. They're lost or they're dead because of the animals that did this. To protect our citizens, I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as and you see this, and you see it happening right before your eyes. Let's put it this way. People don't like taking big loads of drugs in boats anymore. There aren't too many boats that are traveling on the seas by Venezuela. They tend not to want to travel very quickly anymore. And we've virtually stopped drugs coming into our country by sea. We call them the water drugs. They kill hundreds of thousands of people. I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as foreign terrorist organizations, along with two bloodthirsty transnational gangs, probably the worst gangs anywhere in the world, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua is from Venezuela, by the way. Such organizations torture, maim, mutilate, and murder with impunity. They're the enemies of all humanity. For this reason, we've recently begun using the supreme power of the United States military to destroy Venezuelan terrorists and trafficking networks led by Nicolas Maduro. To every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence. That's what we're doing. We have no choice. Can't let it happen. They're destroying. I believe we lost 300,000 people last year to drugs, 300,000. Fentanyl and other drugs. Each boat that we sink carries drugs that would kill more than 25,000 Americans. We will not let that happen. Energy is another area where the United States is now thriving like never before. We're getting rid of the falsely named renewables. By the way, they're a joke. They don't work. They're too expensive. They're not strong enough to fire up the plants that you need to make your country great. The wind doesn't blow. Those big windmills are so pathetic and so bad, so expensive to operate. And they have to be rebuilt all the time, and they start to rust and rot. Most expensive energy ever conceived, and it's actually energy. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. You lose money, the governments have to subsidize. You can't put them out without massive subsidies. And most of them are built in China, and I give China a lot of credit. They build them, but they have very few wind farms. So why is it that they build them and they send them all over the world, but they barely use them? You know what they use? Coal. They use gas. They use almost anything, but they don't like wind. But they sure as hell like selling the windmills. Europe, on the other hand, has a long way to go, with many countries being on the brink of destruction. because of the green energy agenda, and I give a lot of credit to Germany. Germany was being led down a very sick path, both on immigration, by the way, and on energy. They were going green, and they were going bankrupt. And the new leadership came in, and they went back to where they were, with fossil fuel and with nuclear, which is good. It's now safe, and you can do it properly. But they went back to where they were, and they opened up a lot of different plants, energy producing plants, and they're doing well. I give Germany a lot of credit for that. They've said this is a disaster, what's happening. They were going all green. All green is all bankrupt. That's what it represents. And it's not politically correct. I'll be very badly criticized for saying it, but I'm here to tell the truth. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in New York City. I'm feeling a lot safer. Crime, we're getting crime down. And by the way, speaking of crime, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was the crime capital of America. Now it's after 12 days, it's a totally safe city. Everyone's going out to dinner. They're going out to restaurants. Your wife can walk down the middle of the street with or without you. Nothing's going to happen. My people have done a fantastic job. And yes, I called in the National Guard, and the National Guard took care of business, and they weren't politically correct, but they took care of business. We got 1,700 career criminals out, brought them back to where they came from, the countries where they came from, or put them in jails. Washington, D.C. is now a totally safe city again, and I welcome you to come. In fact, we'll have dinner together at a local restaurant, and we'll be able to walk. We don't have to go by an armor-plated vehicle. We'll walk right over there from the White House. They've given up their powerful edge, a lot of the countries that we're talking about, in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea, I know it so well. Aberdeen was the oil capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea. Tremendous oil. And I was with the Prime Minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there. They have tremendous oil left, and more importantly, they have tremendous oil that hasn't even been found yet. And what a tremendous asset for the United Kingdom. And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland. But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the President of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint, it was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get back onto that big, beautiful plane and he'd fly back and he'd talk about, again, global warming and the carbon footprint. It's a con job. At extreme cost and expense, Europe reduced its own carbon footprint by 37%. Think of that. Congratulations, Europe. Great job. You cost yourself a lot of jobs, a lot of factories closed, but you reduced the carbon footprint by 37%. However, for all of that sacrifice and much more, it's been totally wiped out and then some by a global increase of 54%. Much of it coming from China and other countries that are thriving around China, which now produces more CO2 than all the other developed nations in the world. So all of these countries are working so hard on the carbon footprint, which is nonsense, by the way. It's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable, and you have it too. But, you know, we have a border, strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. And if we had the most clean air, and I think we do, we have very clean air. We have the cleanest air we've had in many, many years. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. And the environmentalists refuse to acknowledge that. Same thing with garbage. In Asia, they dump much of their garbage right into the ocean. And over about a 1 week and 2 week journey, it flows right past Los Angeles. You've seen it. Massive amounts of garbage, almost too much to do anything about, flowing past Los Angeles, past San Francisco, and then somebody will get in trouble because he dropped a cigarette on the beach. The whole thing is crazy. The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune. European electricity bills are now 4 to 5 times more expensive than those in China, and 2 to 3 times higher than the United States. And our bills are coming way down. You probably see that our gasoline prices are way down. You know, we have an expression, drill, baby, drill, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be much lower in a year from now. but they've come way down over the last year. As a result, every air conditioner is like very uncommon to see one in some of these countries because the electric costs are so high. So while the U.S. has approximately 1,300 heat-related deaths annually, that's a lot, Europe loses more than 175,000 people to heat deaths each year because the costs are so expensive you can't turn on an air conditioner. What is that all about? That's not Europe. That's not the Europe that I love and know. All in the name of pretending to stop the global warming hoax. The entire globalist concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict pain on themselves and radically disrupt their entire societies must be rejected completely and totally, and it must be immediate. That's why in America I withdrew from the fake Paris Climate Accord, where, by the way, America was paying so much more than every country. Others weren't paying. China didn't have to pay until 2030. Russia was given an old standard that was easy to meet, a 1990 standard. But for the United States, we're supposed to pay like $1 trillion. And I said, this is another scam. The fact is, the United States has been taken advantage of by the world for many, many years, but not any longer, as you probably noticed. I unleashed massive energy production and signed historic executive orders to hunt for oil, but we don't have to do much hunting because we have the most oil of any nation anywhere, oil and gas in the world. And if you add coal, we have the most of any nation in the world. Clean, I call it clean, beautiful coal. You can do things today with coal that you couldn't have done 10 years ago, 15 years. So I have a little standing order in the White House. Never use the word coal, only use the words clean, beautiful coal. Sounds much better, doesn't it? But we stand ready to provide any country with abundant, affordable energy supplies if you need them, when most of you do. We're proudly exporting energy all over the world. We're now the largest exporter. In the United States, we want trade and robust commerce with all nations, everybody. We want to help nations. We're going to help nations. But it must also be fair and reciprocal. The challenge with trade is much the same with climate. The countries that followed the rules, all their factories have been plundered. It's really sad to watch. They've been broken. They've been broken by countries that broke the rules. That's why the United States is now applying tariffs to other countries, and much as these tariffs were for many years applied to us, uncontrollably applied to us. We've used tariffs as a defense mechanism under the Trump administration, including my first term, where hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs were taken in. And by the way, we had the lowest inflation, and now we have very low inflation. The only thing different is that we have hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into our country. But this is how we will ensure that the system works for everyone and is sustainable into the future. We're also using tariffs to defend our sovereignty and security throughout the world, including against nations that have taken advantage of former U.S. administrations for decades, including the most corrupt, incompetent administration in history, the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Brazil now faces major tariffs in response to its unprecedented efforts to interfere in the rights and freedoms of our American citizens and others, with censorship, repression, weaponization, judicial corruption, and targeting of political critics in the United States. I have a little problem saying this because I must tell you, I was walking in and the leader of Brazil was walking out. We saw him and I saw him, he saw me, and we embraced. And then I'm saying, can you believe I'm going to be saying this in just 2 minutes? We actually agreed that we would meet next week. We didn't have much time to talk, like about 20 seconds. They were in retrospect, I'm glad I waited because this thing didn't work out too well. But we did talk. We had a good talk, and we agreed to meet next week, if that's of interest. But he seemed like a very nice man, actually. He liked me, I liked him. But if you, and I only do business with people I like. I don't When I don't like them, I don't like them. But we had, at least for about 39 seconds, we had excellent chemistry. It's a good sign. But also in the past, Brazil, can you believe this, unfairly tariffed our nation, but now because of our tariffs, we are hitting them back, and we're hitting them back very hard. As president, I will always defend our national sovereignty and the rights of American citizens. So I'm very sorry to say this, that Brazil is doing poorly and will continue to do poorly. They can only do well when they're working with us. Without us, they will fail, just as others have failed. It's true. Next year, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our glorious independence, a testament to enduring power and American freedom and spirit. We will also be proudly hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and shortly thereafter, the 2028 Olympics, which is going to be very exciting. I hope you all come. I hope that countless people from all over the globe will take part of these will be great celebrations of liberty and human achievement, and that together we all can rejoice in the miracles of history that began in July 4th, 1776, when we founded the light to all nations. And it's something really that an amazing thing came out of that date. It's called the United States of America. In honor of this momentous anniversary, I hope that all countries who find inspiration in our example will join us in renewing our commitment, values, and those values really that we hold so dear. Together, let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity. And let us safeguard our sovereignty and cherish qualities that have made each of our nations so special, incredible, and extraordinary. In closing, I just want to repeat that immigration and the high cost of so-called green renewable energy is destroying a large part of the free world and a large part of our planet. Countries that cherish freedom are fading fast because of their policies on these two subjects. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again. Whether you have come from north or south, east or west, near or far, every leader in this beautiful hall today represents a rich culture, a noble history, and a proud heritage that makes each nation majestic and unique, unlike anything else in human history or any other place on the face of the earth. From London to Lima, from Rome to Athens, from Paris to Seoul, from Cairo to Tokyo and Amsterdam to right here in New York City, we stand on the shoulders of the leaders and legends, generals and giants, heroes and titans who won and built our beloved nations, all of our nations, with their own courage, strength, spirit, and skill. Our ancestors climbed mountains, conquered oceans, crossed deserts, and trekked over wide open plains. They charged into thunderous battles, plunged into grave dangers, and they were soldiers and farmers and workers and warriors and explorers and patriots. They built towns into cities, tribes into kingdoms, ideas into industries, and small islands into mighty empires. You're a part of all of that. They were champions for their people who never gave up and who never, ever gave in. Their values defined our national identities. Their visions forged our magnificent destiny. Everybody in this room is a part of it in your own way. Each of us inherits the deeds and the myths, the triumphs, the legacies of our own heroes and founders who so bravely showed us the way. Our ancestors gave everything for homelands that they defended with pride, with sweat, with blood, with life, and with death. Now the righteous task of protecting the nations that they built belongs to each and every one of us. So together let us uphold our sacred duty to our people and to our citizens. Let us protect their borders, ensure their safety, preserve their cultures, treasure, and traditions, and fight, fight, fight for their precious dreams and their cherished freedoms. and in friendship and really a beautiful vision, let us all work together to build a bright, beautiful planet, a planet that we all share, a planet of peace and a world that is richer, better, and more beautiful than ever before. That can happen. It will happen. It will happen, and I hope it can happen and start right now, right at this moment. We'll turn it around. We're going to make our countries better, safer, more beautiful. We're going to take care of our people. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. God bless the nations of the world. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right, then.
On
that
behalf
was
of the Assembly,
the
I
United
wish
States'
to thank
President
the President
Donald J. Trump at the 80th United Nations General Assembly. My God, so much that the U.S. President actually spoke on and dwelt upon. If we were to look at in broad categories, the U.S. President spoke about lambasting the United Nations for quote unquote not doing enough. Of course, the bad teleprompter and the escalator was a little bit of a tiff point for Donald J. Trump. But then Russia-Ukraine seems to be the other broad umbrella that he spoke about. Global immigration agenda, scolding the European nations for not doing enough and saying that under the Biden administration, about 3 lakh people ended up on American shores and they all died. And then they repay this kindness with crime. That's number 3. Of course, he also spoke about the green energy hoax. He says 1920s, they were worried about the global cooling. Now they're fooling you with global warming. And they have a saying in America, it's called drill, baby, drill. Of course, tariffs. And he had a stand-up comic sort of an attitude towards the entire end of the monologue and lambasting the nations, hinting out at Lula da Silva as well. I met the Brazilian president right when I was leaving, when I was entering, he was leaving, and we hugged for about 20 seconds. I like him, he likes me, that's the bottom line. But Brazil, you're not doing enough, is what Donald Trump said, singling out all of these nations and at the end saying, let's make all these nations big and beautiful. But we're going to dwell on some of these topics. We have our Trump experts who are soon going to be joining us, people who are keenly focused and following what the Republican administration has been coughing up. But right here with me in the studio is News9's Deputy Managing Editor, Karthikeya Sharma. Karthikeya, what does one make of it? First and foremost, him lambasting the United Nations, saying, look, pull up your socks. You aren't doing enough. It's me who's mediating all these wars, not you.
See, there are a couple of things here. First, the Trump went against the climate change. I think that's an old policy whereby Trump has been saying that climate change is a hoax. Second, Trump challenged United Nations, speaking in United Nations. Basically, this is the dawn of American unilateralism. Trump himself wants to cast aside an institution or number of institutions which were a result of the Second World War, what we call Bretton Woods institutions. Third and the foremost, he spoke about globalization, the borders are closing. So the position of the America on issues like H-1B visa is not going to change. The fourth important thing is that he is blaming poor countries for uncontrolled migration, not telling the whole story that it's the American imperial policy or the policy of America in various parts of the world whereby they have broken the states, they have organized the coups, and this immigration is taking place because Syria has become unlivable, the parts of Northern Africa are unlivable, the parts of South America are unlivable because the American multinational, the European cooperations. Fourth and the most important part is it just tells you the temperature of the American political life. It's revolving around religion. He says that Christianity is the most persecuted religion. So there are a number of things which the President of the United States of America has said and should be taken very seriously because it's going to have an implication. And lastly, so who says that in UN? If I like someone, I would like to do business. So it just goes on to say that how personalized the American foreign policy and the defense policy has become. And we will have to deal with it till he demits office in 2028. That's the big picture.
And just on the climate change front as well.
And he spoke about India also.
Absolutely. He spoke about tariffs. He spoke about China and India being the main funders of this Ukraine war. He said that in the last 7 months, I've stopped 7 wars. I don't know if he's counting India and Pakistan in that particular one. We already know the mediation, how it went, and we do not need to stress more on that particular front. And very recently, how the Jaish-e-Mohammed Supreme Commander came out with that, hate-spewing speech. What more evidence does the world at this point in time need? But Karthikeya, before I move on, and we have Major General Sanjay Mestan also with us on the broadcast. Many thanks, General, for taking out the time. I'm sure you have much to speak about Donald Trump's latest speech as well. General, climate change and China and India being the funders of this Ukraine war. What's your opinion? What did you make of the US president's speech at this point in time?
Yeah, I think the US president's speech, Kabir, though it encompassed everything, but I think it was too personalized. Firstly, at such an important forum, he has criticized his predecessors, especially he said sleepy Joe Biden. And of course, on Obama also, he criticized that he had gone to play golf in Hawaii. And then he was talking about carbon footprint. So the fact of the matter is that I think he tried to show that he's very truthful and honest and he's making honest statements. But I think he did not spare anyone. He lambasted everyone, including Europe, including UK, of course, Brazil, India, China, his two predecessors. So I think to sum it up, he was trying to prove a point that perhaps he is the only best leader in the world. There's no one like President Trump or President of the United States of America. And he is concerned for, human life and, children and everything. And, he's preventing immigration and people who are migrating to United States coming from all these countries, Mexico and all through treacherous terrain. They are dying because of animals and brutal killings by the people en route. So every credit was taken, including Ukraine war, India funding it, China funding it. So the blame was passed on to everyone. But the credit was...
That's what I'm trying to understand. He's not singled out particular nations, but it's like a rain of fire and bullets when he says your countries are going to hell, attacking European leaders and the United Nations in that fiery speech. All right, I can see Pathikrit also, who's joined us on the broadcast. Many thanks for taking out the time. Pathikrit Pai, geopolitical and strategic affairs analyst with us on the broadcast as well. General, coming back to my question particularly, because you see, he's not singled out anybody. He's called everybody, he's used the word stupid a couple of times, and I don't want to go back and check all of that data, but it seems like 300,000 people died, 300,000 people left the shore somewhere. It's always a 300,000 figure for everything that he wants to exaggerate and put a little bit of an emphasis on. In the United Nations, calling out United Nations, in front of all these dignitaries, all the world leaders, calling their nations out, saying that you're quote-unquote stupid and what you're doing is not enough. Can he go away with impunity? Can all of this happen without impunity? He's tariff arm-twisting all these nations, yet he gives a call and the nation is sitting in the White House across the table. So is this a businessman who's in a position of power? And it's sort of like his despotic way. Whatever he says flies.
Yeah, absolutely. See, he's trying to show his power as a businessman and as a leader of United States. See, the one thing we have to be very, very clear. I think he lambasted everyone. But in the end, you also heard the applause given. I think that is what I'm a little surprised. See, Chinese were, when he was naming countries, they were showing Mexico, they showed Brazilian leader, they showed China, they showed Israel, they showed UK, they showed Europe Union, when he was talking about funding. But yet there was a solid applause. So that is what, I'm really wondering why so much of applause was given, and they also showed the Pakistanis were just sitting behind. So I think, the world has also realized that power matters and power comes. How has United States President Trump become so powerful? It is because of two things, economy and of course a powerful military. And this is what the lesson goes for countries like India. We have to be an economic power and a military power. And I think this is what gives a lot of authority and strength to a nation. But anyway, President Trump, the way his style is, firstly, he is not a seasoned politician. Though he was correlating to everything, bad politics, including he was talking about Europe, that energy and immigration is the biggest threat. Imagine energy has become the biggest threat. He is trying to say that, you don't go for the solar panels and everything and clean energy. So,
he again calls out China. He says they're building windmills, but they're not using it themselves. They're using coal and gas, which is why electricity is now much more cheaper than what it was in Europe because, well, America is drilling, baby, it's drilling. Pathikrit, let me come back to you as well. Talking about drill, baby, drill. Is the global warming really a hoax? The US president thinks that back in the 1920s, it was the global cooling that we were worried about. Now it's the global warming. It's just a hoax for all these top bigwigs to sound politically correct, giving examples of people who'd say many things about carbon footprint and then get on a big, beautiful plane, that's how he likes to put it, on a big, beautiful plane, go on to Hawaii, play a course of golf, and then come back on that big plane with old engines. So is this really a hoax? What is Donald Trump trying to say?
Well, I'm not a very big fan of Donald Trump. But on the issue of climate change and renewable energy, I think there is too much of unnecessary pressure that is sometimes put on developing countries. We have very ambitious targets on renewable energy, and I think no other country has done as much as India has done or is doing in terms of installing renewable energy. But at the same time, if after 300 years of exploiting and exploring coal and having their industrial renaissance based on coal, if today Europe tells us that you must stop using coal, and they tell us that you must only use renewable energy, even at a time that they do not want to share the technology, then there is some certain kind of hypocrisy. If you see in countries like Germany, they have opened the coal plants again because of their energy crisis they have today, because of the war that they have funded and expanded in Ukraine. And also it is important to understand that if you are really concerned about the climate, then the first thing that the European countries, including the President of the United States, do is to stop the conflicts of the world, because conflicts and explosion of bombs do not make the environment cleaner. That is important to understand. Now, for a country like India, sustainable development is all about ensuring that you take care of the aspirations of people while ensuring that the nature is also sustained. And that is why we have a fine mix between renewable energy as well as the thermal based plants, because you cannot suddenly have a transition from entirely coal-based ecosystem to the transition takes time. Now, unfortunately, there has been a cartel from the West which actually has been pushing countries to completely shift over, which would require trillions of dollars of investment. Where would that money come from? And my last statement.
And, Donald Trump himself at the end of the speech said that you're all unique nations, you're all great leaders. So each nation will play by their own unique playbook. But Pathakrit, you spoke about the aspiration of the people in all of these nations. And when we're talking about aspirations, some countries have been rendered unlivable at the hands of the United States themselves. And even if we not single them out at the moment, talk about some other countries, people who use these donkey routes to get to the United States, get to the American shores, he's hit out at them. He scolded the European nations for not taking care. He says, your countries are going to hell. You're letting all of these immigrants into your countries, and these immigrants repay your kindness with crime on the streets. Is that really for us to say and understand? Because so much of Indian diaspora across the world, take a look at the far-right rallies that have been taking place in the United Kingdom, even the United States.
Well, we have to make a distinction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. I am all for legal immigration. If any Indian is legally going to United States or anywhere else, doing a job legally, paying taxes, abides by the law, then nothing in the world should stop him if he lives by the law. But that does not mean that the donkey route or illegal immigration can be supported. There is a complete distinction between the two. But at the same time, if you see the kind of illegal immigration that happens from South and Central America to United States, then we have to understand one thing, that in the last, say, around, from 64 to, I think, 2000, that 46 to 2000, in 64 years, there have been more than 80 times that United States has been responsible for interference in other countries' elections and regime change. So many of the countries of South America and Central America, including countries of Middle East from where illegal immigration happens, have been destroyed and, as you rightly mentioned, been reduced, unlivable by these American or the Western powerhouses. So they are equally responsible for ensuring the problem in North Africa, Middle East, and many of the countries of Central America. If there was a banana war just to ensure that banana cultivation happens in one of the Central American countries. The banana cartel of United States ensure the regimes are there which are favorable to America and nobody else. So there is a history behind illegal immigration, which is...
And if there is any sort of transition of power, no pun intended, it does become a banana republic over there. I've completely run out of time here. The US president gave a pretty long speech. Last 30 seconds to you, General. Donald Trump lambasting the United Nations at the UNGA, 80th UNGA in New York, and he's ended it by saying special emphasis on the Gaza ceasefire. He says that's something that needs to happen, but clearly these empty words do not stop wars, and you're not mediating. I have to go ahead and mediate all of these.
Yeah, very true, Kabir. Let's be very factual. United Nations as an organization has actually become defunct in the last few years. There is no doubt. Because so many wars have happened, what they have been doing. If you see the UN General, always they are just giving some statements and that's it. On ground, no action has been taken. In fact, the United Nations should be taking a lead role in finishing these wars. But the fact of the matter is, this clearly calls for a reform and a reorganization of the United States. Because the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, they become the most prominent defaulters, and they only then, start calling the shots and either way. So the whole problem is, I think the United Nations Security Council needs to be restructured, and then only United Nations as an organization.
I think it all needs to be taken a good, clear look at. I've completely run out of time here. Patikrit Pai, many thanks for taking out the time. General, always a pleasure to host you here on News9. That was Donald Trump's latest speech, the UNGA. So much to talk about, lambasting the United Nations. You've got the green energy hoax that he's spoken about, and free speech on the same night when Jimmy Kimmel is supposed to get back on air. So much to talk about. You would believe Ursula von der Leyen to be getting a little irked in her seat, but that's not the case. The rapturous applause at the end of his speech would tell you otherwise. That's all the time we have for you in your interest. Many thanks for watching. Top developments right on the other side.
Alakazam fish disappear. Moon
Smooth, silent, seamless. Sliding systems from headache.
You can take a left, you can take a right. Add a little salsa or a little jive. If you really feel it, say it on price. It's the vibe, it's the vibe, it's the vibe.
पापा इससे पहले जो चलाई थी वही ले ले।
चलती बढ़िया है। कुछ कह रहे थे?
नहीं, इनकी सर्विस पे डाउट था ना।
सर, ओवर 300 टच पॉइंट्स, 170 सेंसिटीज।
पर इन्हें सिर्फ 25 ही साल हुए हैं।
तुमसे तो ज्यादा ही है।
Skoda Fan Fest is live. Walk in today for a test drive and avail exciting benefits.
Skoda.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
The GST 2.0 now kicking in from the very first day of Navratri. The car market across India has witnessed a fresh wave of enthusiasm as well as activity. Dealers and manufacturers alike are reporting a significant surge in inquiries, test drives and ultimately sales, which is a clear sign that customer confidence is on the rise. One of the biggest beneficiaries of this momentum is Maruti Suzuki. The company revealed that it has delivered close to 30,000 cars on the very first day of Navratri, accompanied by an overwhelming 80,000 inquiries. This is a phenomenal boost reflecting the impact of GST rate rationalization combined with the natural festival buying season. Hyundai India, another major player in the Indian automobile market, also reported impressive numbers. The company delivered close to 11,000 cars on the first day of Navratri, marking its highest single-day performance in last 5 years. This underlined how the combination of lower GST, is affecting buyer sentiment. Now remember, the goods and services tax on small cars and SUVs was cut from 28% to 18%, a move that officially came into effect on Monday. The reduction is aimed at making passenger vehicles more affordable for buyers and stimulating demand in a sector that has been facing sluggish growth over the past few years. The early response is encouraging. And India's 8 key infrastructure sectors surged with growth of 6.3% in the month of August 2025. According to the data released by Commerce and Industry Ministry, this marks the 13th consecutive month of high growth. The growth is driven largely by strong expansion in coal, steel and cement production. In July, remember, the growth rate for these core sectors was 3.7%, while in August of previous year, it had declined by 1.5%, which is 1.5%. The last time these sectors recorded a similar growth rate to August this year was that of 6.3% reported in July of 2024. From April to August of the current fiscal year, the 8 infrastructure sectors grew by 2.8% compared to a 4.6% increase during the same period. Union Minister for New and Renewable Energy Prahlad Joshi has stated that reduction of goods and services tax on renewable energy value chain could lead to savings of up to 1.5 trillion rupees by 2030. He also said that lowering of GST rates across renewable energy value chain from 12% will bring down the cost.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Elegant styling meets adrenaline-pumping performance. Drive a world of sporty sophistication with the all-electric VF7 from VinFast. India price starting at rupees 20.89 lakhs.
You can take a left, you can take a right. Add a little salsa or a little jive. If you really feel it, say our price. It's the vibe, it's the vibe, it's the vibe.
Dreaming about me.
Love is to get lost in the look. Unlimit Love B6 Pack 2 starts at 21.9 lakh.
सर वाटरप्रूफिंग के लिए बेस्ट
वेंकी जी एक छोटा सा गिफ्ट बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस देने के लिए।
ऐसा क्या है इसमें?
1 साल में वाटरप्रूफिंग को कुछ भी हुआ तो वापस करके देंगे।
वापस करके देंगे?
वो भी फ्री। पेंटिंग में पहली बार बिरला ओपस अश्योरेंस। रजिस्टर करो birlaopus.com पर।
स्पेशल पार्टनर लायरा वुमेन्स वेयर, लेगिंग्स वो जो लायरा हो। फिलिप्स, सोने पे सुहागा।
पापा इससे पहले जो चलाई थी वही ले ले।
चलती बढ़िया है। कुछ कह रहे थे?
नहीं, इनकी सर्विस वर्विस में डाउट था ना।
सर ओवर 300 टच पॉइंट्स, 170 सेंसिटीज।
हाँ, पर इन्हें सिर्फ 25 ही साल हुए हैं।
तुमसे तो ज्यादा ही है।
Skoda FanFest is live. Walk in today for a test drive and avail exciting benefits.
It worked. पापा मान गए.
Skoda.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning in to News9. I'm Nabila Jamal. This is Unmissable. I take you through news from India and across the globe. Let me start with Navratri that's begun in India. We're looking at a controversy that's erupted as several states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, the right-wing Hindu groups have demanded that those entering Garba festivals or events have to be only Hindus. People's Aadhaar cards will be checked. They should be wearing a tilak and a kada. Only then will they be allowed. Basically, objecting to any Muslim entering this event. We will take you through that with our panelists on board on the Garba rules that have been set this Navratri. And in our deep dive segment, customs raiding some celebrities, including Dulquer Salman and Prithvi Raj, over luxury cars that apparently evaded taxes. Now, no proof is yet against both of them, Dulquer and Prithvi Raj, but their homes were raided. We will take you through details on that. On the way tax evasion is being done, a big racket that's been busted. And finally on Day Tonight, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah of Karnataka appealing to Wipro's Azim Premji, a radical request asking him to allow cars to enter and cut through his campus so that it could ease traffic congestion along Bengaluru's IT corridor. We will take you through that news. As always, I start with the headlines first. Shah Rukh Khan and Vikram Masi share Best Actor honours at the 71st National Awards. Rani Mukherjee wins first National Award as the Best Actress for Mrs. Chatterjee vs. Norway, while 12H Fail bags Best Feature Film. And Mohanlal receives Dada Saheb Phalke Award, the highest honour.
Delivers a far depth, case officer, authenticity.
Amit Shah says Prime Minister Modi gave a spine to India's foreign policy, contrasting it with previous governments where diplomacy outweighed security. He cites swift retaliatory action against Pakistan terror attacks under Modi. India has extended the closure of its airspace for Pakistani civilian and military aircraft until October 24th. Pakistan has also maintained its ban on Indian planes, with both restrictions in place since April after Pahalgam terror attack. India's Arshdeep Singh makes a fiery on-field gesture, which is now coming to fore. In fact, India-Pakistan match went into a lot of controversy after some of the Pakistan players gestured, almost echoing Operation Sindoor on the field. Here, Arshdeep Singh making a fiery on-field gesture in response to Harris has now become the most viral video clip on platforms. Karnataka High Court suspends 200 ticket price ceiling. In fact, the High Court has put an interim stay, and this at least has granted some kind of relief to producers and multiplex chains. Remember, you had Kantara Chapter 1's filmmakers, Hombale Films, who appealed to the court asking this cap to be removed as it hits the revenue stream of a big film like Kantara. The court has put a stay on it until next hearing. Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister Udayanidhi Stalin accuses BJP and Sanghis of creating controversies to undermine the DMK government, asserting the administration continues to perform effectively despite opposition tactics on funds, language and state rights. US authorities dismantle a telecom network near the UN in New York, seizing over 100,000 SIM cards and 300 servers linked to threats against senior officials. The move comes ahead of the UN General Assembly, safeguarding global leaders. Trump administration proposes changes in the H-1B visa process, giving reference to higher paid and more skilled workers. In fact, says preference to American workers is the focus. If finalized, the new H-1B process will prioritize applications from employers offering higher wages to protect American workers from foreign wage competition. US President Donald Trump praises America's achievements, claims global respect and warns on illegal immigration while sharply criticizing UN as ineffective. He calls for peace in Gaza, highlighting his administration's economic and military successes. Donald Trump has spoken extensively on this very platform, also suggesting that many countries, including India and China, have been fueling the Ukraine war. Though he's gone fairly soft on India this time. But he says India and China are backrolling the Ukraine war, adding that NATO states buying Russian oil. This is their bid to fund the war against Ukraine. A big statement there coming from Trump right now. All right, let me start with our top story. As Navratri has begun, we're looking at guidelines that have been set by right-wing Hindu groups on who can enter these Garba events. Navratri festivities in Bhopal have begun under the shadow of a controversy. On day one, hoardings right outside Garba venues have triggered quite some outrage and a debate. Posters that bar Muslims from entering these Garba events. And in fact, it blatantly states, these banners says jihadi is not allowed. Those caught will be made to undergo ghar wapsi. Organizers have also announced strict conditions for entry into these events. Participants must wear a tilak on the forehead and a sacred thread on the wrist, show their Aadhaar cards at the gate, purify themselves with Ganga water, and in some places they've asked even cow urine to be poured on them. They've been asked to offer prayers in Varaha and Goddess Durga. In fact, to offer prayers to Varaha and Goddess Durga. Apart from that, follow traditional Hindu customs throughout the event. These are the guidelines that have been given and put out clearly by the organizers, of course, backed by the right-wing Hindu groups. Madhya Pradesh Minister Vishwas Sarang has backed this move, saying Garba is a Hindu ritual, not an entertainment show, and that only Hindus should participate. Here's the minister's take.
जो लोग हिंदू धर्म का पालन करते हैं उन्हीं को गरबे में जाना चाहिए, जो हिंदू हैं उन्हीं को गरबे में जाना चाहिए। ये कोई एंटरटेनमेंट का कार्यक्रम नहीं है, ये विशुद्ध रूप से आराधना है देवी माँ की। तो निश्चित रूप से इसमें जो लोग जा रहे हैं वो अपनी आइडेंटिटी बताएं, ये बहुत आवश्यक है। और मुझे लगता है कि जो हिंदू धर्म का पालन नहीं करते वो जाते क्यों? ये कोई एंटरटेनमेंट शो थोड़ी है।
Well, you have the district collector there, Kaushalendra Vikram Singh, who stepped up his own directives. He says clearly that IDs to these Garba events must be checked thoroughly. CCTV cameras must be installed, of course, for safety purposes and to ensure any instance or mishap happens. There's first aid and firefighting that should be arranged to ensure any untoward incident is curbed. But nonetheless, he's very clearly said Aadhaar cards will be checked. He insists that the rules are for safety of women and law and order must be in place. But the hoardings and the statements have really split public opinion here. Supporters argue that these restrictions protect cultural sanctity and safeguard women, while critics call this blatant discriminatory, a dangerous step towards social exclusion. The debate isn't confined to Madhya Pradesh. Remember, this has also happened, guidelines like this also given to some of the Garba events in Maharashtra, where the Vishwa Hindu Parishad there has issued advisories making Aadhaar card mandatory and tilak application as compulsory, even saying Muslims who are so eager to join the event must first convert. Ghar wapsi, if you convert, then you're welcome. In Rajasthan's Bhilwara, similar ID checks has been mandated. It's been enforced. Organizers are all set to sprinkle Ganga water and cow urine to maintain sanctity as per their own guidelines. This conflict has been simmering for years. It's not new, but it seems like it's formalized now. But last year in Divas, Madhya Pradesh. Hindu Jagran Manch activists had stormed the Garba Pandal, ordering non-Hindus to leave or they will face assault. These were some of the videos that were circulated back then. In Uttar Pradesh, a Muslim artist, Baby Imran, was barred mid-performance. While she was performing, she was stopped. Electricity was cut off. This lady here, she was forced to leave the venue because she was Muslim. In fact, she was invited by the organizers because she spoke fluent Sanskrit, and she, as an artist, she was invited as an artist. She was performing, and electricity was cut off, and she was forced to leave. Now, for many, this growing intolerance undermines the spirit of interfaith harmony and threatens the very essence of India's cultural unity. And for many others, this is probably how they want it. Let me bring in our guests, Brinda Adige, social activist and director, Global Concerns India. We also have Ratan Sarda, author and political analyst, and Deshdeep Saxena, author and senior journalist, Madhya Pradesh. Thank you all of you for joining us. Let me start with Mr. Deshdeep, who's joining us live from Madhya Pradesh. Sir, Bhopal, we're looking at some strict mandates there put in place. And, well, I understand this can't be, some of those banners are way too radical for the government to support it either. Jihadis are not allowed. I'm sure the government is not backing such statements. But at the same time, you have the same government saying, yes, it's a Hindu festival. What's wrong? Only Hindus should go, nobody else. So that kind of emboldens the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, who's known in past instances to have created a ruckus, assaulting people there. In some videos, we also showed Muslim artist that was performing was forced to leave. Electricity was cut off until she left, though she was invited by the Garba organizers. So this kind of bullying in some of the venues, ensuring that only Hindus participate. Do you believe this is a larger sentiment within Madhya Pradesh, that they don't want anybody else apart from Hindus to be taking part?
Well, I doubt that this is a larger sentiment. Most of the people still want that these celebrations should be held within communal harmony. But this is, as you said in your opening statement, this has not happened for the first time. It has been going on for long, especially in BJP ruled state. I remember it started few years ago with New Year celebrations, when the right-wing activists would vandalize some hotels or wherever these New Year celebrations are being held. Before this Garba controversy, let me tell you one more thing, that in the past 1 year, the right-wing activists, they have been visiting gymnasiums, gyms, and ensuring, within quotes, that there should not be any Muslim or male Muslim instructor looking after the women members of the gyms. And now this Garba thing. Let me tell you the scale, you would get an idea. About 1,600, there's about over 1,600 Durga Pandals, including some small tableau. Many of them are holding Garba festivities, the Dandiya. And there is one celebration where the celebrations are being held in almost 3.53 lakh square feet area. There are food festivals.
No, we know it's completely commercialized. I'm not saying all, but many of them are commercialized. And you have tourists coming in out of intrigue and just wanting to be part of the cultural extravaganza. How do you demarcate among thousands and maybe in some venues, lakhs of people, that only Muslims should be left out, the others are welcome? If you're a tourist, if you're a foreigner, you're welcome. Of course, Hindus only event, but apart from that, tourists, foreigners are welcome, but Muslims, you be out.
But it is happening, it is happening.
Is it widespread?
If there are right-wing activists, they are visiting or they are sort of giving their diktat, displaying hoardings. So police is also under tremendous pressure. Nobody wants law and order situation. So, which is why the collector has come up with this idea of
checking
having this identity cards, because nobody wants, no collector, no SP or no police inspector wants something wrong happening in
basically out of fear the police are complying, then that shows the failure of the police, that they don't have a spine to stand up to the ethos of the country. But nonetheless, let's not forget instances that have been reported of some people disguising their identity and walking into these events and probably creating trouble. It has happened in the past. There have been instances. We're not denying it. Mr. Ratan Sarda, your take on that. Do you believe these past instances of fake identities being used at Garba events has really fueled this protocol today?
The way you have designed the whole debate is from the beginning, continuously calling Hindus a right-wing, devout Hindus who want their festival to be respected as right-wing, is fine, your call. But tell me, are the Hindus only to carry the flag of secularism and carry the cross of secularism for India? Nobody else is responsible. Why only Hindu festivals are turned secular, some kind of fun-making kind of festival where anybody can rejoice? There is no sanctity there. So you had Onam, which is purely Hindu festival, thousands of years, converted to a secular festival. No, it's not a Hindu festival. You had Sabrimala, you said, no, it's secular, anybody can go. You said Holi is a festival of color, and if everybody has a right, it is not a Hindu festival. Chamundeshwari Devi is not Hindu Devi. That is recently they said. Vijayadashmi is not a Hindu festival. What is Vijayadashmi? Yeah, Diwali, they said it's a festival of light. It is not a Hindu festival. Pujo, you talked about non-BJP areas. In Puja festival, when during that Vimarshan, Muharram festival gets primary place and Pujo has to wait. That Vimarshan has to wait. This happened. It is on record. So my simple point is, have Hindus no sense of respect for their festival? Why when Hindu says, Papa, mere festival ki izzat karo, let me celebrate the way I want to. Why they are called extremists, right-wing and hate-filled people? Do I go and say, I will lead Eid prayer? Do I say I will go there and celebrate Eid? Do I say I will go on Christmas and sit in the church and trying to tell them what is wrong or right with that church? I went to a condolence meeting of a friend in a church. I was not given the wine and bread. It's fine because I am not a Christian. I went to Jordan mosque. I was not allowed to enter certain area. I was allowed to get in saying, no, this is a particular area for namaz. Fine. So why do you want to enter a place which you don't respect? You don't believe in puja. You don't believe in murti. You will not bow your head to Durga because you will celebrate Mahan Vaishak in JNU. That is not freedom of speech. So please, Nabila, let us respect Hindu sentiment also. They have a right to have their festival as Hindu festival. If you want to join as a Hindu festival. Don't try to discolor my festival of my religious fervor or my religious feeling just because you want to say secular. Will we call any other festival like that? We don't. You raised objection
to me calling the entire Hindu community as right-wing Hindu group. I was very pointed by saying right-wing Hindu groups like the VHP. I said the VHP and they are a right-wing Hindu group. I am also
right-wing because I am supporting this, the festival to be.
You are not VHP, sir. Are you VHP?
I am RSS. So you can call me right-wing.
You are right-wing. I'm not saying no, but when I speak specifically of VHP, they've shown radical tendencies in the past.
My simple request is...
My only contention here is you can't deny the fact that the VHP has not indulged in violence. They are a radical group on many levels have shown signs of radicalism.
If I was to put this banner, I would not put it like this. I would say this festival is only for Hindus.
Correct.
You believe in Hindu Devi.
So do you condemn it? That's it. You said it yourself. Do you condemn this slogan, jihadi is not allowed?
I am not into. I am saying, why do you condemn Hindu festivals to be celebrated by Hindus? Why do you say it's a fun-loving festival? So condom company can make an advertisement.
I have not said it. I have not said it. I am exactly giving the picture of what people are saying, the sentiments across.
Nabila, what I am I'll give one example. When you start saying every Hindu festival is something fun-loving, free-loving, festival for everybody, you have a case of condom company.
Sir, lots and lots of temples in India do not allow non-Hindus.
No, you didn't allow.
Nobody's objecting to that.
Very critical point. It is neither Hindu nor Muslim. How can a condom company start selling Navratri as some kind of free sexual festival where they sell condom? This is what happens when you dehumanize Hindus, when you dehumanize their festivals. This is where it goes.
No, sir, Hindus, nobody is objecting the Hindus to carry out their festivities, but to kind of demarcate that Muslims alone are not going to be allowed, how does it fit into the country's ethos? It does not.
But ethos are only for Hindus, so you will keep on dehumanizing
what part of the Muslim festivals are you not?
Separate them away.
Are you not
them
welcome
away.
to?
No, you're saying.
No, you're
you
saying
take
you're
away-
comparing mosques. You're comparing mosques. Sir, most
I
temples
said-
don't allow
I said-
non-Hindus either.
I
Like
said-
mosques,
no,
who do not allow non-Hindus in some areas. Like that, temples also don't allow
Yeah.
non-Hindus.
So, point is, why you are demonizing Hindus festivals
Nobody is
which are religious
demonizing, sir. I'm
festivals?
asking
What is
you, why do you
Navratri?
think this sentiment
You
is
tell me
Qatar
what is
sentiment is
Navratri.
coming to play?
Okay, Nabila, tell me what is Navratri.
So you tell me, sir. You probably know it much better than I do. So why don't you explain to
No,
our
you
viewers
at
what
least
is Navratri?
know it says 9 days of festival of worshipping Shakti, Durga in various forms all over India in different form or the other, right from Jammu to Punjab to Gujarat to Kolkata to Assam to Golu in South, everywhere. So you have Durga being celebrated and worshipped as a symbol of Shakti across Bharat. It's a religious festival. There is Bhutakama also. So all these festivals ultimately tell you it's a purely religious festival. You want to join as a devout person who respects Durga. You cannot have people who are celebrating Mahishasur and calling Durga various names to attend that festival.
So
You
no,
cannot do
you're
that.
basically picking radical elements and